seek you out, flay you alive.
Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of Intro to Swift. In this episode, we are going to look at conditional statements and loops. I'm going to try to do everything in one episode, and it is going to be a little bit quick, but again, this series kind of assumes that you have some knowledge in other languages, because all of this stuff is not very different in Swift. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to begin with some conditional statements, and essentially what these do, these conditional statements or control statements, is they control the flow of code. For example, if I run this, everything is just going to run down from top to bottom. But if we want something to happen based on a certain condition, the code will essentially fork, and it'll say, if this condition is true, we want to go down this path and do this stuff. But if something's not true, we want to go down a different path, or we just don't want to do anything and we want to continue through. So these change the flow of code, and different code will run based on the condition. So that is why they're called conditional statements, conditional statements, sorry. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with the most basic version. Most basic conditional statement is an if statement. It checks for a value, and checks a condition. If the condition is true, then it will run. So we'll go ahead and write the word if, which you'll see is a reserved word. One difference between this and other languages is you don't use any parentheses, so we just write our condition, we don't put it inside of parentheses. I don't know why, but Swift likes to do it like that. Just notice that semicolon. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we're going to say if, and let's start with the very basic version. We're going to take that name variable that we have up there, and we're going to say if name is equal to Noah. And I use two equal signs because I'm checking to see if it's equal. I use one equal sign to assign it. I say I'm setting it equal to Noah, but here I'm saying is it equal to Noah? I'm checking it. And we're going to put our curly braces. So this will run. We're going to say this, or the code inside these curly braces will run if the value of name is equal to Noah. So that's a good way to think about it. So if the name is equal to Noah, we'll go ahead and print ln, and we'll say hello Noah. So let's move on. So we know if statements. Let's continue with the if statements. There are two other things that go with that. There are else if statements, it's written like else if. And let's just write a sample, and we'll say if name is equal to Pogo. And what this will do is it will check this if statement to see is name equal to Noah. If that doesn't end up working, it's going to try this else if. So it's going to say otherwise if name is Pogo. So we're going to say the code inside these curly braces will run after the above if statement is checked and fails, and only if name is equal to no, or Pogo in this case. So if in this case, we'll go ahead and print out hello Pogo. And if we look on the sidebar, we'll notice here it does say hello Noah, but here it doesn't say hello Pogo. Because when we look at this, we see that the value of name is set equal to Noah. So when we check this and it sees that name is equal to Noah, it will just stop right there. But if I comment that line out, and now it's equal to Pogo, you'll see it tries to see is name equal to Noah, and in this case it isn't, so then it tries this. It says is name equal to Pogo, and in this case the answer is yes, so it's going to print out hello Pogo, and it doesn't print out hello Noah. One last thing. There is also an else statement that we can use. We can say if all else fails, we can say that the code inside these curly braces will run if all above if and else if statements fail. So we have this if statement where name is equal to Noah. We have an else if where name is equal to Pogo. And then in this else, we'll just print out hello stranger, so we don't know who this person is. So in this case, you'll see it doesn't print anything, but let's just say that we set name is equal to pogo stick 29. In this case, it's going to print out hello stranger. It's going to first check to see if name is equal to Noah. That doesn't work. Check to see if name is equal to pogo. That doesn't work. Then finally, all failed, so we're going to use this else statement and print out hello stranger. So that is how if, else if, and else statements work. Note that you do not need an else if nor an else. You can have an if by itself, you can have an if with one or more else ifs, and then you could have this where you have all three of them. An else if needs to have an if on top of it, and an else needs to have an if on top of it for obvious reasons. You're not going to use an else if unless you're already checking for something first. So that is if statements. At this point, I guess it's time to take a look at some loops. The first loop that we will see is the, let's do the while loop. So the while loop takes a condition and it runs its body until the condition evaluates to be false. So in this case, we will say, let's just do var random number int is equal to 1. So we'll set our random number equal to 1. And we're going to say while random number is equal to 1. And what this will do is it'll say the code here will run until random number is not equal to 1. So it's not just going to run one time. Here, these all run one time. In this case, it's going to run as many times as it needs to in order for random number to be not equal to 1. If I go ahead and say, let's go ahead and print out the random number is 1. You'll notice that it's probably not very good. This is an infinite loop right now because random number is equal to 1. So all we're doing in this loop is printing it. We're never changing it. So this is just going to run infinitely, and we really don't want that to happen. So what I could do is I could say, oh boy. Alright. Alright. Oh, there we go. Alright. I guess Xcode was not very happy. Okay, so then let's just quickly do this. We'll say random number is equal to 2. And now, okay, it's going to print out the random number is 1, but it's only going to happen one time. Because as soon as I set random number equal to 2, it's going to go right back up, and it's going to say, is 2 equal to 1? No, it's not, so it's done. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another version of the while loop. This is called the for loop, and in Swift it is a little bit different. So the for loop you use when you know how many times you want something to run. With the while loop, we're not sure how long it's going to take, how many times it's going to have to run before it's conditioned to be satisfied, but in a for loop we do. Let's say that we want to print out all the numbers between 0 and 9. We usually start with the number 0 in programming, not the number 1. So what we do is we're going to say for, no parentheses, var I int, and then it's like 1 ... 10. I believe it should be something like that. Hang on one second. I just wasn't supposed to write the word var. So this syntax looks a little bit different than it would in most languages, but what it's saying here is we have this variable called I, and we're saying in 1 ... 10. So what this is going to do is it's going to say for I in 1 to 10, for every value in that range, it's going to run. So between 1 and 10, let's just go ahead and print out I. And if we look at our output, it's going to print out 1 and all the way to less than 11. So That's not... One second. That's not terribly helpful, obviously, but what this is doing is it's printing out all of the numbers between 1 and 10. It's going through this range of 1 to 10, and the first time it's going to assign I to the value of 1, and it's going to print out 1. Second time it's going to be 2, and it's going to go until it gets to 10. And then it's going to set I equal to 10, it's going to print out 10, and then it's done with that range. Or if we want to do what I said before and put it in a range of 0 to 9, you'll see it then says 0 and 2 less than 10. So it's just going to print out all of the numbers that are greater than 0, or the numbers between 0 and 9 inclusive. So that is almost it. We did our if statements, our while loops, and our for loops. There are other uses for for loops, but we'll get into those later. This is just a very basic use. The last thing that I want to show you that I did promise in the last episode is a special kind of if statement that has to do with optionals. So if we look at this optional right here, we see that when we use the question mark on a type, it makes it an optional type, and this middle name says some Alex. And we can't access Alex directly because it's an optional. It's a wrapped type. It's inside of an optional. So in order to get it out of there and access the value of it, we need to use a special kind of if statement. And this is what we do. We say if let, we'll just say mn equal to middle name. Then we're going to print ln. We're going to say middle name is not null, and its value is middle name. So what this does, and obviously it's not doing anything right now, put that, is, okay, so let's just demonstrate this. I'm going to copy out that line. So you can see that over here it says middle name is not null, and its value is, we actually want to use mn, not middle name. And you'll see its value is Alex. So what happened here was we have this optional, and in order to get it out of there, we use this if statement, and we say if let mn equal to middle name. So this will say, is middle name is an optional, is its value nil? In this case, it is nil. If I take that line out, you'll see middle name is equal to nil. So the if statement is not going to run. It's sort of, you know, kind of like a condition. So it's just not going to run. But if I comment that out, and you'll see now the value of it is Alex, it will run, and it'll assign the value of middle name to the variable mn. So it now prints it out, and it says the value is mn. And this notation with the backslash parentheses, that just means whatever you put in there evaluates to actual code. If I took this out and write mn, it's just going to say mn. But if I put it backslash parentheses, whatever I put in there evaluates to be actual code, and it'll instead do the value of mn and not just the letters mn. So that's all for this video. If statements, while loops, for loops, and the special kind of if statement in Swift for optionals. So as always, subscribe if you want to see more, comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.